Hey there, it's Amaro here, and in this video you're gonna learn what should you do if you're skinny fat. So should you bulk or should you cut first? And this is a big dilemma. It's been a question that has been asked for me a lot of times, especially recently, where there's the phenomenon of skinny fat is just increasing and increasing. There's a lot of guys and girls out there with really low amounts of muscle mass and a very high amount of fat. So they don't know what to do. Like, they're in that situation where their upper body is very skinny, shoulders are narrow, like there's no muscle mass, arms are tiny, but there's that belly fat there, like there's the beer belly or whatever you want to call it. It's there, right? And you don't know where to start. Like, what should you do? If you go for the bulking, like let's say 50% of coaches that recommend bulking, you're just gonna end up getting a little bit more fat, although you're gonna build size, you're gonna build muscle mass, but you're not gonna get rid of any of that fat. Second option, okay, you can go for a cut, but then you're just gonna be skinny. And that's like the ultimate dilemma. What one should you choose? And before I even dive into the category and the thought process and how you can actually separate between the skinny fat category itself, there's multiple different subcategories that I'm going to identify for you guys. First, I want to say that whatever you do, you're not going to be happy with the first step. So you're most likely not going to be happy. And this is a two-step process. If you're a skinny fat individual, this is not a one-step process. That's the first thing you want to know. And ultimately, you're not going to be happy, most likely, with the first step. So you want to have a degree of acceptance. You want to accept the situation you're currently in, and whichever one you choose, either a bulk or a cut, by the end of this video, it's going to be an easier choice to make for sure, but it's still most likely not going to make you happy. So from the psychological standpoint, you want to realize that this is a longer process. So it's a two-step process. It's going to take a while. So don't get discouraged if that phase one of the whole thing doesn't get you where you want to your ideal physique, because it really is a hard thing, right? It's not that easy, and it takes a while. You know, anything that is worth having takes a long time to get, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of will and a lot of willpower, proper strategy and all of that. But from a general standpoint, you want to have a degree of acceptance. So now that we got that out of the way, so what are these subcategories within the skinny fat category itself? So there's generally people who are naturally more prone to gaining body fat, like who gain weight easier, and there's people who gain weight a lot slower. So if you're naturally very, very skinny, you might find that gaining weight is actually quite hard. You might have a belly, but it's not that big in general. It's not that compared to someone who's really overweight and they call themselves skinny fat. I'll see people just call themselves skinny fat, but they're in reality they're just fat, right? They don't have a lot of muscle mass, but they're just fat. So when you kind of identify yourself first in a category, whether you're that naturally skinny guy or naturally more easier toward gaining weight or a little bit more moderate weight gain when you're in a caloric surplus, that's the first step. The second step is, okay, are you a complete beginner, or are you someone who's been training for a while or just on a break, or someone who hasn't been doing any form of training ever in their whole life, right? So if you're a complete beginner and you're naturally very, very skinny, so you have a very hard time gaining weight, you might be better off going on a bulk, because you've been skinny your whole life. Like, you've been lacking size, you don't have any muscle mass, and you're probably not even that fat to begin with. So in that category, your body in general, like your insulin sensitivity and the way your body works, is probably going to be much better to, when you put it in a bulk, you're going to be able to gain muscle mass, and you're going to be even able to burn a little bit of fat mass if you're lucky, if you really set it up properly with a high protein diet, with good training, increasing your strength over time. So for a naturally skinny guy who's also skinny fat, a little bit of belly, you probably will end up getting better results in that first phase if you just go for a bulk, right? That's step number one. Step two will always be a cut. Remember, it's always a two-step process. So if you're a naturally more chubby guy and you're skinny fat, you're probably better off getting cutting down that fat, because for health reasons, if you're that person who's easier when it comes to gaining weight and you never lifted in your whole life, you probably are better off to go on a cut, because you will be able to gain muscle mass even on that cut a little bit, and you're going to be more happy with that first phase, right? And then obviously for the second phase, you want to go for a lean gaining phase, where you focus on building lean muscle tissue with progressive overload training. And I mean, you should be training throughout all this period of time, right? So that are the kind of people who haven't been training for a while, right? For people who have been lifting, or you have the muscle memory effect, I would say for that scenario, it's probably always better to go for a caloric deficit, because if you've been lifting in the past and you got some muscle, like there, maybe muscle memory effect, you had some muscle on you, you're probably gonna end up being much happier with yourself if you simply go for a cut. And that just being psychologically real, like you're gonna be more motivated because you're gonna be able to see your muscles and you're gonna be able to just get leaner faster. That being said, as I said, there's only one person that I would recommend for going in a bulk, and that's a really naturally skinny guy with no prior experience lifting, right? Anybody else, I would most likely recommend them to go for a cut first. And this also has one big thing that you should base your decision on, and that is your psychology and what you're aiming for and what you're happy with. So I know plenty of people, I know plenty of guys and girls, and especially guys when it comes to that, they just don't want to be skinny. They hate being skinny. And in that situation, you do want to go for a bulk. Like if you don't like to be skinny, if you really despise the fact of being skinny, then you should really go for a lean gaining phase, like straight up. Because you don't want to do something that makes you unhappy. You're just not going to be happy with the phase one at all. And why not just go for that size and you can cut it down later? I would just say, don't go overboard, like don't go like dirty bulk or something like that. Be very smart about it. Go for a mild caloric surplus and focus on gaining as much muscle and as little fat as possible, and you're gonna be happy. Other people, as I said, other categories, if you have experience, if you don't have experience, if you're naturally skinnier or more, or like you're more overweight, I would say it's probably better for you to just go on a straight cut. Simply for the reason that you're gonna be more motivated because you're gonna be able to see results. And from a psychological standpoint, if you're the kind of person that doesn't mind being lean, if someone just hates being fat, like there's people out there who just hate having fat on them, and they would rather be skinny than skinny fat. So if you're in that scenario, if you're that kind of person psychologically, you just want to lean down. Just go for a straight up cut and then slowly again, lean gaining phase, building muscle, going on that like slower type of bulk, and you will gonna get there eventually. As I said, it doesn't really matter what the phase one gives you. You're most likely not gonna be happy with the result. It's a big, long process. It's multiple steps. So make sure to realize this, to accept the fact that you really need to start working on this. And this, the worst thing you can be is that gray zone where you're not training, where you're not eating high protein. You wanna get yourself on a proper resistance training plan, build strength, progress over time, and get on a very high protein diet. Eventually, once you get on that, you're gonna be able to progressively overload yourself, get better and better, and you're gonna get to your goal eventually, and you're gonna feel better about yourself as well, because that strength will not go away, that muscle will not go away. Once you build that muscle, it's just such a good return on investment, because it's a lot easier for you to cut eventually. It's a lot easier for you to just look better, look closer to your ideal physique once you have that muscle mass. And overall, the issue of skinny fat is simply the lack of muscle mass. It's simply the lack of lean tissue and the lack of resistance training in the first place. So when I get that done, don't look for excuses why you shouldn't do that. Do resistance training, do strength training, do what you can, progress with weight over time, eat high protein, eat good, healthy, unprocessed food. You're gonna get there, you'll love yourself, you're gonna get to your goal, and everything will be awesome. And that is it for the skinny fat solution. I hope you enjoyed. If you have a comment on this specific topic, if you've gone from skinny fat and managed to transform your body, or if you're currently in the skinny fat situation, let me know in the comments below. Let's discuss, let's share some ideas if you have any questions on this topic. Besides that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to click subscribe to support the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.